Welcome to episode 2 of the Ultimate Football Show podcast. My name is Chris, and today we're going to look at the games taking place on Monday, the second match day of the tournament. England versus Iran gets the match day underway. Then Senegal take on the Netherlands, and in the evening it's the USA versus Wales. So, finally we get underway with two of our local teams, England and Wales, both in action on match day 2. Once again, we'll hear from regular contributor and former Chelsea and Brighton footballer Gary Chivers, and today we've got some very special guests joining us as well. We're happy to support the Lilywhite Foundation.com on the podcast, advancing young people through sport. For more information, visit their website, lilywhitefoundation.com. Let's have a look at the headlines then ahead of match day 2. And Joe Allen, the Wales midfielder, he trained away from the squad in Qatar during the weekend. He's still not fit. He went over with the squad unfit, and was a question that he'd get a game, but he's not going to play on Monday. It looks like pretty much sure that's going to be a fact. So no Joe Allen, it appears, for Wales against USA. And so far, no injury reports have come from the England camp. So let's hope that it all stays that way. So let's have a look then at match day 2 with Gary Chivers and guests. We'll start off with Gary. Gary, how should England go about this opening game? Should they go about against Iran on the front foot in a real attacking mode?
They've got to go from it, from the start of the game. I hope he plays one defensive midfield player or one at the back. I hope we don't play two defensive midfield players. We just got to go gung-ho for it. I mean, we're miles better than them. We just got to show it. We really have got to turn up, and you'll know within the first 20 minutes how the game's gonna pan out. But we've got to go. None of the passing round the back. Let's get it forward a little bit earlier. Let's have a right good go at this side.
I mean, we've got Iran in the opening game, and that's a team a bit like Qatar. We don't know anything about them, really, because all their players are pretty much playing in the local leagues. You can only see them on video, and that doesn't... I mean, they'll have gone out there and scouted them, perhaps. But, you know, when they come to these big World Cup competitions, they seem to grow an extra couple of inches, and obviously England's going to be one of the scalps that they want to go for. So, it's going to be a tough opening. In fact, we don't know a lot about what we're up against, but maybe we should just concentrate on what we've got and not worry about what they haven't.
Exactly. Just worry about us and how we're playing. You know, bearing in mind, Gary's been under a little bit of pressure recently. You know, the results, or the recent results, haven't gone well for us. He's putting a team together now to go into a World Cup. Let's go for it. You know, don't sit back. No two holding midfield players. Let's go from the start of the whistle. Let's have a proper go at these sides.
Who would you have up front with Harry Kane? Would you have Sterling and Saka up front? Would you put Foden up in a more forward position, and then you've got Rice and Bellingham in midfield, that sort of thing? Or where would you go with that?
I would go with Foden. Up front with Harry Kane.
Would you?
Yeah, I think he's played. He tends to play Sterling out wide now a little bit, and he's too wide to affect the game. Or even Sterling. Sterling's a good player. Yeah. He's experienced. He might go with a little bit of experience at first, but there's one thing, I wouldn't play Bellingham and Rice in the midfield together.
You wouldn't?
No, I wouldn't. No, I'd probably play Rice, and I'd put someone else attacking minded, getting forward, not getting back. Right. You know, we're going to be playing against Iran in the first game, but let's have a go. Let's have a go.
There's 3 players that sort of we know are going to play straight away. Jordan Pickford, Declan Rice, Harry Kane. I think they're definites, aren't they, in there? So they're going to play. And then the rest of them, you've got Mount, Grealish, Foden, Bellingham midfield. You've got the striker options as well, with Harry Kane, obviously, at the top. But who's going to play central defence? And don't you think that Gareth Southgate is sometimes a bit too loyal and sticks with Maguire and Dyer, perhaps? Whereas you've got to go with Stones and someone else. I mean, whoever else you want. I mean, you, for example, would be better than Maguire.
He's taken a lot of stick, isn't he?
He is.
Yeah, Harry Maguire's taken a hell of a lot of stick.
Well, that's the life of a footballer, as you will know.
But I have to say, Chris, he's been playing quite well recently, hasn't he? The last few games, he's done quite well. It all depends. You can't play Dyer and Harry Maguire together because they haven't got a lot of pace. You've got to put some pace in there, and Stones carries that pace. He's got a bit of pace about him, but he does get lost in the box quite easily.
So Trent Alexander-Arnold's probably going to get a game because Kyle Walker's out, we know, of the first game. You're going to play him on the right, so Trent's going to be on the right, and either Luke Shaw or Trippier on the left. Is that how they're going to go?
Do you know what? I think he'll go for... I was going to say Luke Shaw, but I'm not going to say him. He was going to go for Kieran Trippier.
Yeah.
He's been playing well for Newcastle, gets himself forward, gets himself in advanced positions in the midfield, pushing forward, and that's what we need.
He can cross a ball as well, can't he? And I mean, with someone like Harry Kane in the middle, you know, you've got all those players that can cross a ball, get it in the box.
Yeah. Harry, I have to say, he's not a man crush on him, but what a player. You know, he's up at Tottenham, he's there on his own, he holds the ball up for what seems ages, no one's near him. I just hope he don't get isolated when he plays for England. I hope someone's in and around him to try and help him out, because an England team without Harry Kane is not a good team.
So the other game on the Matchday 2 on the Monday, we've got Senegal against Holland. No Sadio Mane as far as we know for Senegal, which gives Holland a really good chance there, or the Netherlands, whichever way you want to call them. And then in the evening, Monday evening, Wales turn up at the World Cup for the first time in 50 odd years against the USA. And Gareth Bale's decided he's fit. So he must have had a couple of good 18 holes around the golf course then. He's ready to go.
Well, I don't know if you watched the TV the other night, and the Wales team was training, but Gareth Bale was behind the goal having a little jog and a little walk around and resting. It looked like he was resting. And then it actually came onto the Wales squad. They've done tremendously well qualifying.
Yeah,
they really have done well. And it'd be interesting to see what side he actually puts out. I mean, I looked at that Kiefer Moore who plays up front for him. 10'10".
Yeah.
I mean, massive fella. So what are they going to do? Go for route one and try and get people round him? I don't know.
I suppose if you can hit the ball off Kiefer Moore to Gareth Bale or anyone else who's running on from midfield, you've got half a chance, haven't you, in the competition like that? He
puts himself about that, Kiefer Moore. I have to say, for Bournemouth as well, he's done well down there, and they're quite impressed by him. But at the World Cup level, different kettle of fish.
Well, we saw that with Hal Robson-Kanu. Do you remember that goal he scored?
Yeah.
Where he pirouetted on the sixpence. Never done it since. Never did it before. It's never happened again, ever.
It's got him on TV though. It's got him on TV. He's doing commentaries now.
That was definitely his moment, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, brilliant.
And what a goal!
It was a great goal.
I mean, people were saying, I'm sorry, quite sure who was that?
Yeah.
Who scored that? It was brilliant. You can change your life in 3 seconds really in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Do Wales beat the USA?
Oh, Wales will beat the USA. I think it'd be a close game. You know, they've come on a little bit. The USA. You look at the foundations they've laid for the soccer over there. But yeah, it'd be a lot closer than what people think.
Well, if you're listening and you're a USA fan, here's some bad news for you. Your leading goal scorer by miles is Christian Pulisic, who can't score a goal if you put him on the 4-yard line. He's just not scoring, is he? I don't know, is his confidence gone? You go and see him a lot. Pulisic's just not where he was and hasn't fulfilled what they expected when he came from Dortmund.
He seems angry all the time, Christian.
Another angry player.
Another angry player. He stays out on the right wing. I'm not sure if he wants to play out there. I think sometimes you've got to take it on yourself. If the manager tells you to play on the right side and you stay there and you don't get the ball, you have got to go looking for it. And sometimes he keeps himself out there. He's got to come back a little bit.
Yeah.
And always, the pivotal player in your team when you go forward is your centre forward. Yeah. He's got to be there to hold the ball up. And Kai Havertz does that at times.
You're listening to the Ultimate Football Show podcast with Gary Chivers and Chris Barnett. Well, time now to hear from some more footy experts. And London-based businessman, entrepreneur and philanthropist. It's always hard to say that word, isn't it? He's Frank Khalid. I spoke to Frank about England's chances in the World Cup, and we started talking about our captain, Harry Kane.
He's been the main talisman, hasn't he, for the last two tournaments. He was important in the 2018 World Cup and the Euros. If he gets injured, then I don't know where else we're going to get the goals from. I wouldn't be too reliant on the likes of Rashford and the others, but for me, he is a very important member of the team. He can, he takes his penalties very well. He wins penalties. He wins the ball in the air. He's good in the air. If we've got any chance at all, it all depends on him and the service we provide him. Defence is the issue for me. I'm a bit worried about the defence. We've taken players who I don't think are in great form at the moment. I mean, Harry Maguire, if he's going to be starting off, I'll be a bit concerned about him. He's done well for England in the past, but for Man United, he's had an indifferent last 18 months. I don't know how he's going to perform. That would worry me. As you know, we've got issues in right back. Obviously, Reece James pulled out, which I think would be a big loss. So there is issues all over the place. England were very disappointing in the Nations League recently. Got well beaten by Hungary. It looked like we were doing particularly well, weren't we, after the Euros? I thought, things are getting better and better, and then suddenly, last 12 months, we've kind of been disappointing. So again, I don't know what to expect. Raheem Sterling is another player they rely on a lot, but he's been out of form for Chelsea. I want them to do well. I hope they do well. Depends on the draw, but I think there's too many teams out there that are stronger than them.
Just a line on Raheem Sterling. You watch him pretty much every week for Chelsea now, and we watched him when he was at Manchester City. When he was at Manchester City, he seemed to get into the centre of the box and goal-scoring positions a lot more often than he's doing for Chelsea. He's more out on the wing. When he did get in the box a couple of times, he scored a couple of goals against Leicester, I think it was. He's just not getting into the right positions, is he, right now?
You've got to put that down to the manager, isn't it? The manager's job to get the best out of a player. I always feel that sometimes if a player isn't playing well, you drop him for a few games and then allow them to build their confidence back up and bring them back in the team. What our manager currently is doing, and that's another issue altogether, is kind of playing the same players again and again and again. What happens with that is that those players that are lacking confidence, like Raheem Sterling, the fans start getting at the back of them. They lose more confidence every match. And then the players that are sitting on the bench, their confidence goes down because they realise that no matter what happens, they're not going to get minutes on the pitch. Brings the whole thing down. But Raheem Sterling, going back to Raheem Sterling, he's out of form at the moment. Maybe the World Cup will do a world of good for him. Maybe he'll score a few goals there and he'll come back to Chelsea in confidence. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I would blame a little bit of that onto the manager, who's probably using him in different positions. I read somewhere where I think this season we've changed about 55 times. We've never kept the same team or something like that. Made so many changes. We're probably the team that's made more changes than anyone else, unless you have a consistent same team that are playing regularly. And he does need to drop players that are out of form. That's my personal opinion.
With players like Hakim Ziyech, he must be wondering what's the point of having laces in my boots, because he never gets to tie them up anymore, does he?
I thought he had a reasonable game against Man City in the League Cup. He kind of did all right, and I thought he deserved a chance the next game, and then doesn't get given a chance. It's disappointing, because you want to give these players a chance. They've got the ability, but you need to drop the players that are out of form, and our manager at the moment isn't doing that. And we seem to be stuck in this thing where we seem to be losing match after match after match, and fans are getting depressed. It's not looking good. It's not looking good. We can blame injuries, but we had a big squad. The squad that size, we should beat the likes of Newcastle, in my personal opinion. And then when you look at the match as well, when you study the match as well, to just create one shot on target in the whole game, or two if you count Broja as well against Newcastle, it's disappointing. Expect a little bit more, wouldn't you?
There was none against Arsenal.
None against Arsenal, yeah. It just tells you everything, doesn't it, about a team playing. I'd rather lose 4-0, but at least have some shots on target, show some intent.
I'm Gary Chivers. You're listening to the Ultimate Football Show podcast.
Now, John Ferguson doesn't only know all about the Lilywhite Foundation, he's also a massive Tottenham Hotspur fan. So when I met up with him, I took the opportunity to get his thoughts on some of the star names in the England squad, and we started with Eric Dyer.
It's a really interesting one for me, Chris, because as you know, a lifelong Spurs fan and go to most of the games. I've seen a lot of Eric Dyer since he joined us. And he came to us with a lot of promise from Sporting Lisbon. And, you know, I think in the early years it was very difficult. I'm pretty certain that, you know, Maurizio Pochettino didn't really know whether he was a defensive midfielder or a centre-half. And he showed a lot of promise. What's the concern for me is that 4 or 5 years later, he's not really progressed. And if anything, in my opinion, gone backwards. And yet he's now, you know, being named in the England squad. And you only have to look at the mistake he made against Liverpool. You know, those happen regularly. He's caught wanting a lot positionally. He's a great lad and you know, nice lad to meet. I've met him and, you know, he's obviously talented. Otherwise he wouldn't be in a Premier League team playing pretty regularly. But for me, he's not the answer at centre-half.
Do you think Messi, Mbappe, Neymar, Benzema all quaking in the boots facing Dyer and Maguire?
Well, again, I go back to watching him at Tottenham this season. If you watch you know, everyone's sort of, there are a lot of people saying, well, Tottenham are doing really well, top 3 or whatever. The first 6 or 7 games of the season, without fail, every team that came to us had 3 or 4 one-on-one chances, absolute sitters, where largely these had come from mistakes from the defence, be it Dyer or one of the others, but a lot from Dyer. And we got away with it at Spurs because those teams didn't take their chances, and we were able to stay in the game and claw it back in the second half. But you can't do that at international level. We all get punished, and you know, you make those mistakes, as you say, against the likes of Messi, Mbappe, or any of the top strikers in the world. They take those chances, they'll gobble them up, and then there's no coming back, because teams at that level as well are very capable of shutting down and going, okay, we're 2 up, let's call it a day.
Yeah.
That's John Ferguson talking about the England camp. We'll hear from him again later on in the podcast as we talk about part 2 of the Lilywhite Foundation, so make sure you stick around for that. So we've heard about the England team, the England squad, England's chances. What about another team in Group B, the USA? Feroze Ali is an amazing video storyteller. He's based in California and he watches football from all over the world directly from there. I asked him, how does football, or soccer as it's known stateside, compare to other big sports such as American football, baseball and basketball in the USA?
Yeah, honestly, first of all, it's good to be on this pod. Appreciate you having me. Regarding this whole thing with U.S. soccer and how it is compared to other sports over here in North America, I would say as of now, it's slowly still growing. And as cliche as it's gonna sound, Beckham made a huge difference when he did come to the U.S. a few years ago. And that sort of like helped the US sort of gain back how good, because back in the day soccer was really, really good, and then it sort of faded out. And trust me, I hate calling it soccer. I always call it football. but when it comes to the other American sports, like basketball is probably the biggest one. Right. However, it's really weird because even though basketball is the biggest one, because everyone watches it like over here once a week when the season is on. But when you're talking about American football, which you call football over here, unfortunately, for that, there's only one game that matters at the end, which is the Super Bowl, which pretty much I would say a lot of the world watches, right? You cannot compare it to the World Cup because that for me is the biggest sport, obviously football. But when it comes to Super Bowl, other people sort of get involved because it's a one game thing. It's like a proper family event sort of thing, similar to Thanksgiving. And, you know, so still it's growing slowly. And just like Beckham played a big part a couple of years ago when Lampard, Drogba, Pirlo, all these big boys joined the MLS. That helped, and all this is helping. Bale coming too, So I would say it's slowly growing, and eventually, hopefully, it becomes the staple, because it has and it should be the best sport over here.
Because everything over there is very seasonal, isn't it? The NFL plays from September through to sort of February. You got Major League Baseball, MLB plays through to October with their World Series. The basketball has its season as well. So they're quite defined, and when one finishes, another one starts. So they don't really overlap, do they?
No, see, that's one good thing, because usually they are seasonal. So you get enough time to sort of keep up with all these sports, because at times it can just get too much,
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I'm just slightly disappointed that soccer isn't at that level yet, because it should be, right? Obviously, players are coming in and stuff. It helps out, but at the same time, there's so many rules and restrictions that it just, really, really frustrates me.
Now, you mentioned Beckham, you mentioned Gareth Bale, who's over there, and a few others that obviously Thierry Henry played over in MLS as well. What about if Ronaldo, who's looks like he's leaving Manchester United, and Beckham sort of put some interest in the rumor mill saying we want to bring him over to the US? How big for Major League Soccer would having Cristiano Ronaldo be?
It's crazy how you just mentioned this, because I was thinking the fact that Ronaldo, I was just watching his interview actually right before this, and he does seem to be leaving, Chris. Yeah. But it's one of those things where I never realized how a couple of weeks ago Messi was linked with Inter Miami as well, right?
Right.
Now, if you get Cristiano, I think one incentive for both of them could be, hey, you know what? We can at least have this rivalry going for a few more years, and that will draw the eyes to another level. You can talk about, obviously, Drogba for us Chelsea fans. Henry, he did really well, but it's one of those weird situations where I wish a player would go to, or should I say, come to the MLS when they are at their peak, which is really tough, right? Because it's sort of seen like a retirement home. But even if it's Ronaldo and Messi and they are past their peak, it's still, these names will draw some unreal eyes, it'll just bring all the views and everything, and that is something that can play a huge part.
Yeah, because looking at the USA squad, there aren't many players that are based over in the US. A lot of them are in Europe, aren't they? Is that a positive that they're obviously saying the players are good enough to play for Chelsea or Leeds or Fulham and Celta Vigo, teams like that? Maybe Borussia Dortmund, Valencia in their mix too? Or is it a negative that the American public watching and saying, well, these guys are not even in our country. They're not supporting our own MLS.
Right now, I feel like a lot of people over here have realized and know that the best football is in Europe, and it is abroad, which is why, like, seeing these players go there, it's not looked down upon. The only thing is in terms of how they're going to click, because when you see the likes of, let's say, Spain or Germany, one reason why they have been so successful in international tournaments is because they all usually play together. It's and like similar team and stuff. Like Spain was pretty much Barcelona and Real Madrid. That was the entire team. And with the US, it's like everyone is scattered all over the place, which can sort of be a hindrance. However, they are sort of skillful. They are doing good. You got Sergiño Dest, Christian Pulisic, Reina, all these other players and of course Weston McKennie, who are good players, but will they mesh as a team? Let's see.
Is Christian Pulisic the only savior you've got? I notice he scores all your goals. Hasn't been hitting the barn door for Chelsea recently. He's got to get his shooting boots on, and he's going to have to perform to give the USA any chance to come out of a group that's got England and Wales in it as well.
Yes, but you just know it's written in the stars for him to score against England. I honestly believe he is a really good player. Just just like a lot of people in the current Chelsea team, they're just going through a rough patch. He needs to be more clinical because a couple of seasons ago, he was phenomenal after, COVID restarted. In fact, people are comparing him with Eden Hazard, the way he was dribbling and finishing all these chances. He just needs a little bit more luck, confidence, and of course, playing for the US team will give him that, because people know you play for one of the best clubs in the world. So we expect a lot from you, and he is the number 10 for both Chelsea and for the USA, right?
So he's he the man that most USA fans are pinning their hopes on. That he has a really good World Cup.
No, he's one of those X Factor type players, right? You don't have a lot of them in the World Cup. So he can create something out of nothing because he can dribble, he can score. It just depends on his confidence and his form, unfortunately. But I actually have high hopes for him. I really think he will do well this World Cup, unless the one big issue with him is his injury, right? He keeps getting like injuries and stuff. So that's the only thing that I'm slightly worried about. Otherwise, I really think he'll do well for the US. I'm not going to say they're going to get past the group stages because it is a tough group, but let's see, right? Let's see.
I'm Gary Chivers.
I'm Chris Barnett.
And this is the Ultimate Football Show podcast.
And we'll hear from Feroze again in further episodes down the line during the World Cup. We'll also hear from Frank Khalid again, as both of those experts give us their thoughts on different teams during the World Cup 2022. So make sure you stick around and follow the podcast, subscribe if you can, and you'll have the episodes as soon as they come out, and you'll hear all of the expert views. Oh yeah, and Gary Chivers as well. So that's always worth listening out for. Now, in episode 1, we heard from John Ferguson from the Lilywhite Foundation. In part 2 of the interview, I asked him how did the foundation manage to cope during the unforeseen global COVID pandemic.
Like the rest of the world, Chris, we had to pull the plug on the events for a couple of years, and we've enjoyed up until then. We'd enjoyed the support of a number of high-profile sports people, many that you know, and we've done some fantastic events and lunches where these people have given up their time and come and spoken for half an hour, and people buy tables and have a great afternoon. But obviously the end result is money in the bank account for the foundation, which goes out to the causes. That has dried up a bit. We're going to restart that certainly in the new year in 2023. Got a program of events that will come up, including golf days and lunches with likes of former Premier League managers or players or etc., cricketers, golfers, and so we will look to be doing that. We've done quite well over the pandemic in terms of we've run a lot of football games and golf games and prediction leagues of who's going to win what, and people pay 20 quid here and 20 quid there, and it actually, we were quite surprised when at the most recent audit, it's added up over the pandemic years, and we've got we were able to support. We've just sent some money to a London project that allows kids to get involved in a new youth centre and activity centre in South London. So,
well, we're really happy to support the Lilywhite Foundation here on the podcast throughout the World Cup. It's lilywhitefoundation.com. Simple as that. Yeah.
I mean, it all comes about because we believe that teaching, getting kids into sport young, gives them social skills that they take through with them to adulthood, gives them self-esteem and confidence, and gets them out from behind the laptops and the computers. And we have a problem with people not obesity. I know you're laughing, I can see you laughing and looking at me, but once upon a time I was quite slim and a sportsman.
So was I. I'll have you know.
It's hard to believe us all, isn't it?
It is.
But yeah, so we want to get the kids out there, we want to get them active, we want to give them some self-esteem and some confidence and teach them some social skills. Sport teaches you about winning, losing, having a teammate, comradeship, all the things that you take into later life and the business world.
And of course, we're happy to support the lilywhitefoundation.com here on the podcast, advancing young people through sport. For more information, visit lilywhitefoundation.com. Well, that's about it for episode 2 on Monday's Matchday 2 at the World Cup. Fingers are firmly crossed for a good start for both England and Wales in Group B. Now, thanks to all of my guests today, to Gary Chivers, Frank Khalid, Feroze Ali and John Gus Ferguson. We'll be back again with episode 3, which features games on Tuesday. There were 4 of them, when Messi, Lewandowski and Mbappe are all in action for their nations on the same day. It promises to be a bit of a thriller. See you then.